Today, I'm going to be revealing the diet that I'm going on for the next 21 days. I'm going to explain why exactly it is superior and why exactly I am going on it, what benefits that one may see from going on it. First of all, I want to throw out there, I'm not a nutritionist. Don't try to sue me for recommending this because I'm not recommending it. I'm just presenting all the good information that I have found on why it is a good diet and why it will provide many benefits for most people. So you can take this information how you want. There's going to be people who are offended by this. People are going to naturally push back against this. So expect that if you go on this diet. But I'm going to break it down fully for you. I'm going to present the counter arguments so you understand why exactly those are wrong. And then I'm also going to explain how you could fuel yourself as an athlete on this diet. The diet that I am going on for the next 21 days is called the Carnivore diet. This is only eating meat or animal products. So I'm going to list the specific ingredients that I am eating later, but first let's explain what exactly we are trying to accomplish with this diet. First of all, a big misconception with eating cholesterol in your diet is that dietary cholesterol increases blood cholesterol. There is no statistically significant evidence that proves this point. This is a myth. This is not true according to the current studies we have out right now. Now, if you are eating only meat products, you probably realize that your body is not getting any carbs, and carbs are likely what you've heard your whole life is how you fuel yourself. Some people ask and say that the glycemic index being high up there means that it's a quick and accessible fuel, and in most cases, yes, that is true, but this diet is going to manipulate that so we use a different source of fuel in our body. And what we are going to do is start using fat as our source of fuel. Your body does not use both of these at once. Your body does not use fat as fuel and carbs or sugars or glucose as fuel at the same time. When you go on a ketogenic diet, aka a carnivore diet, which doesn't have any carbs, your body switches to a state of ketosis. Ketosis is your body using fats to fuel your body rather than carbs. It takes 3 to 4 days of being on this diet for your body to switch. In those 3 to 4 days, you'll likely feel really bad because your body is getting used to not having any energy. It's going to keep trying to use these carbs, these sugars, this glucose to fuel yourself, but you're not going to have any. So you'll feel pretty bad for the first 3 to 4 days, and then you'll experience a sudden spike in energy. You'll have the best energy levels of your life. It'll be extreme. You'll feel a lot of benefits when it comes to energy. First reason behind this is because fat is much more energy dense. In a gram of fat, you have 9 calories. In a gram of carbs, you have 4 calories. Because fat is so much more energy dense, our body has learned over time to store the fat, store it in the form of fat in your body, and then use the carbs because we want to have fat available for times we won't be able to eat. So that's why our ancestors or our genetics have us store our fat and not use fat naturally as our natural source of energy. Now, how exactly do you know if your body is in a state of ketosis? Because you probably realize it's very important. One thing I will say is this is a diet that you want to be very strict with if you are going on it. You can't cheat at any times. You can't add in some carbs or else it's going to screw up this process. This is a strict diet that I will be going on for a short period of time. And if you go on it, I recommend going on it for a set period of time. This is a temporary diet to see temporary, super extreme benefits. But there is very little research on doing this diet for a long term. So I recommend doing it for short terms, doing it for periods of time where you want to have these extreme benefits that I will continue listing. And then while you are off it, that's when, well, you have fun. Those are the more enjoyable times of your life. Sort of like monk mode. I will be explaining monk mode soon and explaining how I go about it. And on the flip hand, when you're off of the diet, this is when you could be more lenient, you could have fun. People say that it's very good to do stuff in moderation, work in moderation, do drugs in moderation, party in moderation, do anything in moderation. People act like moderation is always okay. But I'd say do the exact opposite. Do extremes. Have extreme periods of hard work, hard discipline, a difficult diet, and then do extreme periods where you let it all out, enjoy yourself so you can stay disciplined when you're on these diets. Because I know by setting a hard 21-day goal at the start of this diet, I'm going to want to know that I have an ending, and an ending that I am going to enjoy. So it's going to make me much more disciplined on this diet. That's just how I recommend you approach it. You could approach it in different ways. Enough of that. Let's keep explaining the benefits. But first, I want to explain how you can know whether you're in ketosis, because this is a very important process to take place. And if you're eating any excess carbs, this process will not take place. This is the issue with keto diets. Most keto diets actually are not strict enough for your body to truly switch to ketosis. This is why the carnivore diet is superior, and the carnivore diet is cleaner, healthier, more nutrients. It's superior. So the signs you're in ketosis. First is that jump in energy. You'll feel the difference before and after. You'll immediately know through the jump in energy, okay, my body's actually doing something now. Second is you'll likely lose 7 to 14 pounds of water weight in the first 2 weeks. You store a lot of water weight on you from the carbs you intake. And when you cut out the carbs, you'll lose a lot of weight. For some people, this will be less. For some people, this may only be 3 pounds, but you should see a quick drop in water weight. Third is your waist will shrink because your liver won't be storing as much. Like I said earlier, fat is much more nutrient or energy dense, so you could eat less fat and have less in your body. Your liver will shrink because there's not as much in it. Simple as that. Smaller waist. Another sign is that your gut microbiome at the start loves sugars. Our current gut microbiome loves to consume sugars, so you're going to feel extremely hungry at the start. You're going to eat, and you're going to feel as if you're not really full, but you can't eat any more meat. And this is because your gut microbiome is saying, hey, we need some sort of energy source. We're not getting that. So this is a sign that you're not in ketosis yet. And when you switch, your body's no longer going to crave more food in the form of carbs when you are done eating. The next benefit of this diet is clear thinking. This is why most people go on this diet. This is why I am going on the diet. I'm satisfied with my gym gains. I think I will look better afterwards. That's something I hope on the side, but the main reason is for the clear thinking it provides. Iman Ghazi, Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, Hamza, they all go on this diet and they all say their brain functions much clearly, and there is actually reasoning behind this. It'll improve your memory, your focus, your attention. You'll be able to think about one thing without your brain straying off. There's actually reason behind this, and this is because the brain is made out of fats and it functions much better on fats. Sugar damages your brain cells over time by clogging the pathways that energize your brain neurons. When you switch to ketosis, your ketones revert this, and it's a fuel that's much cleaner for your brain, so you'll feel much more clear-headed. In addition, whoever you are after you eat, you're going to feel much more out of it, much more tired. Your brain's not going to be functioning to its fullest, and this is because you have a spike in blood sugar immediately after that actually leads to that sleepiness feeling. One other more obvious benefit is that you are going to have less insulin resistance, and while that's not a concern for many people, it is going to improve your mood. Insulin resistance has been seen to link to mood, so that's one of the benefits. Now, you may notice that most of the things I'm talking to is structured around the fats that we are consuming. Therefore, it is very important you are eating high-fat meats. You don't want to eat very lean meats. You actually need the fat to fuel yourself. You could give yourself protein poisoning from eating too much protein and not eating enough fat. So make sure you are eating fatty meats. I am going to throw out what I eat in a second, but make sure you are not consuming too much protein or you will not see the benefits of this diet. It was funny thinking of the type of people who would watch this video. There's going to be some people who are open-minded, thinking, yeah, I'd try it. I'd base how I feel on whether it's a good diet, not everything I've been told. And then there's going to be those people who immediately reject it, say, oh, worst diet ever. No vegetables. You clearly are going to die if you're on this diet. And it was just a funny thought to me. My first thing on this diet is my only seasoning, which is Himalayan salt, and you also need some sort of salt because it maintains your electrolyte balance. But I chose Himalayan salt for a few reasons. One, it's a salt with a lot of minerals. Two, 90% of sea salts contain a large amount of microplastics. I am not saying you can't use sea salts. Sea salt works well as also, but it does normally contain microplastics, so be aware of that. That is why I chose Himalayan or pink salt. Himalayan salt contains all the testosterone boosting nutrients, including calcium, potassium, iron, magnesium, and sodium. And as I said a second ago, it is great for your hydration because it maintains a good electrolyte balance. Because it contains potassium and sodium, your body needs a ratio of potassium to sodium to actually make electrolytes. Salt also helps transport nutrients, so I think eating a good amount of salt or a large amount of salt could be very beneficial on this diet. These nutrients include fat and amino acids. Your fat, remember, is your fuel source, so you're going to feel more readily energized, and having your amino acids transported efficiently is going to help you build muscle or recover from your workouts. It also supports your adrenal system, makes that work more efficiently, and then your brain also becomes quicker when you have high salt intake. It signals quicker and you have less brain fog. The next thing on my diet is shrimp. You could replace this with any sort of fish, but you do want to have some sort of seafood on this diet because seafood has specific things in it that you can't get in other meats. It's very high in DHA and EPA. Your balls use these to maintain their structure, maintain their integrity, and be able to produce testosterone more effectively. These also help your balls receive the nutrients needed for testosterone production. And then finally, these help your testosterone bind to their androgen receptors, so they are the opposite of endocrine disruptors. They make you actually see the benefits of your high testosterone, such as increased muscle mass, thicker bones, deeper voice, etc. You could name the list. And then there's many other nutrients. I won't bore you listing those off. It's not going to provide you much of a benefit. Just know that you need some sort of fish because of the nutrients in them. Next is beef liver. You need to eat some sort of liver. I'm just telling you, bro, man up. I know it tastes horrible. I know you don't want to be eating it, but man up. If it's actually going to improve your life, you could handle sticking a bit of food in your mouth. So I don't want to hear any excuses for the beef liver. If you're going on this diet, don't be scared of the liver. Bro, you only need 4 ounces of liver a week on this diet. That is not a lot. Eat 1 ounce 4 times throughout the week. You're going to have a little bite, and then you're going to be done. You're going to have your nutrients in. Stop getting scared of the liver. It's your main source of vitamins and minerals, and don't eat too much because it could be toxic because of how nutrient dense it is. The primary staple on this diet is ground beef, and higher fat is actually better. I recommend eating 80-20 as the leanest possible meat, and go ahead, add about 1/10 of the calories in butter, so you're going to have your meat soaking in a bunch of fat and butter, and then keep it cooking for long enough where all of that cooks into your meat. It will eventually cook into the meat. I promise you. Just keep it cooking, and don't suck any of that fat out. You want that fat. And dang it, I spoiled the next thing. The next thing is butter. Butter contains many good vitamins such as K2. K2 is hard to get in your diet at all. It also contains butyrate, which is something you could normally get from fiber, but we aren't intaking fiber on this diet, so you basically need butter to replace this. People think that butter is going to make them fat, but there has never been a conclusive study that links butter with obesity. It's in the whole saturated fat idea, the saturated fat scam that I'll go into later. But butter does not make you obese. It actually has many compounds that support your metabolism not declining as you age. And because butter has so many compounds that support your testosterone, it has great testosterone benefits. A study looked at people and had them replace olive oil with butter in their diet. They tested their testosterone before and after, and there was a 17% increase. And olive oil is good for your testosterone. So clearly there's some sort of link between high butter consumption and your testosterone levels. Next on the diet is eggs. I don't need to say much about them. They have everything to support your testosterone. They have D3, cholesterol, omega-3s. They support your brain function, and popping that yolk over your ground beef makes it taste much better. Next on the list is cheddar. It's just for flavor. There's nothing special about it. Eat it in moderation because having too much of it could have some negative effects on this diet. So don't overload the cheddar on your food, but have a slight amount of it when you need a bit of extra flavor. There are a few main arguments against this that you just simply cannot prove as true. The first argument is that you won't be getting enough vitamin C, and you can actually get a good amount of vitamin C from liver, but even if you aren't getting your daily intake of vitamin C, your body only needs vitamin C because of your carbs. If you cut out carbs, your body actually does not need vitamin C. The second argument is that we are omnivores. We are meant to eat both meat and vegetables. So why would we cut out the vegetables? We are quite literally genetically made to be able to eat vegetables. And there's no way to conclude this other than simply looking at the health benefits you receive from cutting them out or looking at how you respond. But I will say that just because we can eat vegetables does not mean that they are good for us. 5,000 years ago, meat was much harder to forage for than vegetables. So there was many times where people weren't able to get their hands on meat, but they were able to get their hands on vegetables. So I could say this is something we have in our genetics, something that humans have as an advantage, so we don't starve to death, not necessarily because vegetables are good for you. The next argument is that higher fat will lead to heart disease, and I think it's the complete opposite. I'd say carbs, obesity, and a sedentary life is what leads to heart disease. There's a direct correlation between countries with a higher fat intake and a lower fat intake. The countries with a higher fat intake have a much lower risk of heart disease. And I'll pop up on screen some graphs. This first graph is going to show you how saturated fat has decreased over the last 100 years. The next graph is going to show you how heart disease has increased in the complete opposite. They're the complete opposite graphs. They show you that these are completely opposite. You could make the argument that saturated fat prevents heart disease because it supports your hormones, it supports an active life, not being sedentary, prevents obesity. So I would say that having high fat is not going to give you heart disease. Even a recent meta-analysis analyzed 12 of the highest quality studies looking at this idea, and it found that there is no statistical significance between fat intake and heart disease. Well, now I know you're wondering, where exactly did this whole idea that saturated fat causes heart disease come from? And it came from a study that was done severely biased, and it was made for profit, not to actually find a solid conclusion. This study looked at 22 countries and then it cut out half of the data on the findings. So it looked at these countries, and the countries that showed high saturated fat and low heart disease, it pushed out of the study. So it only showed the biased information saying that the saturated fat increases heart disease. And why exactly was this such a good thing at the time, such a profitable idea? Because heart disease was shooting up and there was no conclusive reason why. So people were looking for some sort of reason to bind their heart disease to. Okay, so I presented the reason why being omnivores doesn't matter, but why exactly are we going to have no seasoning and no vegetables? Well, first, they're carbs, and carbs block your transition to ketosis. You could have a slight amount of carbs and still transition to ketosis, so this isn't the only argument against it. My next point is that Dr. Anthony Chaffee said the minimum amount of carcinogens found in vegetables at a grocery store is 60, which is almost equivalent to that of a cigarette. So there are a lot of carcinogens in vegetables. Now, this could be from whatever they're spraying on it at the time they're harvesting it. It could be from whatever. It might not actually be a part of the vegetable. It may just be because of how we farm them. But that doesn't change the point that there are 60 carcinogens minimum on these vegetables. Next is these vegetables contain anti-nutrients. When you're out in the wild and you're looking around, you don't see any animals because those animals hide from you. Those animals don't want to be killed by other animals. When you're looking around in the wild, you see vegetables or plants everywhere. These plants contain these anti-nutrients to protect themselves, to make things not want to eat them, and some anti-nutrients is more detrimental. That's why we don't eat some things in the wild and why we stay away from them. But all these plants contain some sort of anti-nutrients which blocks all the minerals used for testosterone production. Next is that it contains linoleic acid, which is an endocrine disruptor, and it spikes autoimmune diseases. An endocrine disruptor is something that blocks your testosterone from binding to it, their androgen receptors, so you can't see the benefits from your testosterone. Now, if you do want to cheat on this diet, if you don't want to be as strict on this diet, it's safe to eat avocados because avocados, one, higher nutrients, two, they're low in anti-nutrients, so you won't actually see as much negative effects from them, if any. And then finally, it's a fat-based vegetable, not carb-based, so it won't block your transition to ketosis. You could also add single ingredient seasonings. I recommend starting off with no seasonings and then go ahead and add seasonings in and see how your body responds. So don't just immediately jump and start smothering your meat in seasoning. I hope this helped. Go ahead and leave any questions in the comments. Soon I'll make a video on how to fuel your body as an athlete. And second, I'm going to make a video on how you can use a diet like this to really structure your life and really improve your life in a very short period of time. Remember, we need extremes for extreme results. So when this video ends, go ahead and close your eyes and think about what your life would be like if you structured your life around this diet.